Recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Digging with Seven and Tennessee Jeff. Join us for the next hour as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. Join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio on Spreaker. All right, it's Thursday night again, and we are ready for another live broadcast of Relics Radio. Already got Chris Heimsoff in the house. We got Bill Marsh in the house. Larry Stevens is in the house, and we've got a good show lined up tonight with Jason, the Hoarder on YouTube, and we'll get to him in just a moment. I don't know if Tennessee Jeff is going to be able to be with us or not. As most of you know, his wife's mother passed away, and they had a funeral yesterday. And I talked to him this afternoon, and he was at his father-in-law's house. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Tennessee Jeff. But we do have Jason with us tonight. Are you there, Jason?
I am here, Seven. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and I'll just give a little preview to everybody here tonight. We're going to talk everything from metal detecting and metal detectors to witches' spells. And I see that Larry.
I love the title.
Yeah, I see that, and there's Matt Perdue just came in. I see that Larry Stevens has already put in there. Where's the witch? Well, I tell you, the witch will be here in just a moment, but so good to have you with us tonight, Jason. I had the opportunity to do a live YouTube with you, and that was a blast. And there's Jeff Ford, and there's Josh Kimmel. People starting to come in. I had the
What is that avatar that Jeff Ford has?
I know it. You know, you and I and Matt Perdue and there's several, have the honor of having been, put on Jeff Ford's lip sync videos. What do you think about all of those?
I thought they were hilarious. Now, I'm pretty friendly with Jeff, and so he texted me a preview of some of the clips before he posted them on the video. And I was rolling on the floor. It was so funny. What a creative thing to do.
I know.
It got me so motivated that I even made one of Jeff that I didn't put on a video. I just sent it to him. But I made one of Jeff because I figured he'd never make one of himself. And I had a blast doing it. It's such a fun concept. I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, I do too. And yours was hilarious. Of course, you're an animated guy anyway, and Trenton Yoder's in the house.
I am animated.
And
I see a lot of people I know on here too. Guess it was St. Johnny.
Right,
the
Johnny.
On-site in town. I see a lot of them. It's great to see everybody.
It is. We've got a good crowd here tonight. But yours was.
And Seven, I wanted to say also, I'm sorry to hear about Jeff's father-in-law. That is a shame. I hope he's doing well.
No, that was his mother-in-law.
I'm sorry. I'm all confused. There's so many things going on.
Yeah. It was his mother-in-law, and she had cancer, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Battled against that, and so he's been out of sorts for a while. We just kind of have to, catch a moment whenever we can go hunting, and it's that's understandable. There are more important.
Sure.
There's more important things than metal detecting, and family always comes first. And as we said, our thoughts and prayers go out to Jeff and Jennifer and her family in their loss there.
Absolutely.
And Bill McDougall is in. Hello, Bill. Your skit that Jeff Ford did was absolutely hilarious because you're such an animated guy. I don't know if it'd be safe to hunt around you. You're so animated.
I was an easy target for Jeff, I'm sure. I am animated, and you'll have a hard time finding one of my videos where you're not looking at my goofy mug for at least 2 minutes of the video. So yeah, I was a pretty easy target, and he knocked it out of the park. Some of them were hilarious. Yours was really good with your rap with Jeff. That was really funny. I'd love to be in Plugmaster's mind for 2 minutes just to see what the heck's going on in there.
It'd be a scary place to be, I tell you what. It would be a scary place to be, but he is a great guy. Him and Tim Henderson came in, and Dave Miller. I'm trying to keep up with everybody. And by the way, we do have, I think, thanks to, and Chris Finley is in, I think we've got our Skype all ironed out thanks to Josh Kimmel and all the help that he's given me on that. I did finally have to go and just purchase a computer and just dedicate it to Skype. But the call-in number tonight is 270-495-0315. If somebody will help me keep that in the chat, keep the number there. There's Tim Henderson in, good friend of ours. But once again, it's 270-495-0315. And if you've got a question or you want to talk with Jason here tonight, well, give us a call and we'll get everything going. How's the weather up your way? Are you getting to hunt any?
Yeah, I've actually had a pretty lucky streak here. We had a few heavy snows. It finally melted about a week ago, and now we've been hovering in those mid-40s. So I think I've been out 3 times in the last week and did really well. I finally got a new video up today, and I already have one that'll come up next week, which is, it was a super fun video. We found this hole in the ground, a giant stellar hole. We detected around it for a long time, and after a while, I went out to Kyle's trunk and got a rope, and I lowered him down this 10-foot deep pit, and he was exploring. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to finish editing it. So, I just love to be able to get out and dig, and I don't even mind digging in the rain or the cold or the wind, but when there's 10 inches of snow on the ground, there's just nothing you could do.
No, you can't. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, that's the only thing really that stops you because my coil won't even reach the soil.
Yeah.
So those are the days I just hang in.
Yeah, and Missouri Mike just came in, and we're going to get to Chris Heimsoff was asking about your nail coil, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. But you're right. I mean, we had last week or week before last, it was down around 0 and then jumped up into the 60s. I mean, weather's just crazy right now. But it is crazy. Yeah, we've been able to get out and do some digging and everything. And Jeff and I had a video last year of we found a well. And he brought a big old aluminum ladder and got down in there, and I'm up there at the top filming him, and I think the name of that video was "Stuff's Falling on Me," because I'm up above filming, and he hollers up at me, "The stuff falling on me is going all down his neck," and he got down in the bottom of that, and it's rock lined and brick and everything, and he's looking at it. And then in a minute he says, "Well, here's a snake in here," and so it was kind of short. Yeah, it's kind of short-lived. And I tried to get him to catch it, but he wouldn't do it. Bob's in the house. Hello, Bob. He wouldn't do it, but anyway, it was a fun video to do.
I'm not a fan of snakes either. That's one of the few things when I'm out in the woods that I'm a little careful of. I've had a couple run-ins with some big ones. and I usually will just try to avoid them. I used to hunt with a guy that would get a stick and go up and play with it and agitate him, and the whole thing made me uneasy. I'd have to walk away. They're too fast for me. I'm too slow. My reaction time's too slow. So, the big snakes are the only thing. Because this time of year, even on a nice day, I'm in the woods or I'm in the farms. I don't do the yards till the spring. And there are a lot of snakes in the woods and deer and all sorts of things that you run into. Luckily, I don't have bear like some other people do. But I'm still not a fan of those snakes.
Yeah, we have a few bear sightings, and they've we've had a few more over the last few years, but it's kind of uncommon. But we do have snakes, and I'll tell you a funny story is that Jeff and I, we don't use headphones, and of course when we're using the AT Pro, you know how they sound; they're just beeping constantly. And we were back in the very back end of a Kentucky holler. We call it 5 Mile Holler because it's about 5 miles into the back end of it. And we're just back there, just detecting away. And I like it like that because I can hear if he's in signals and he can hear what my signals are sounding like. And but anyway, in just a little bit, we call up a whole flock of turkeys because they hear that chirping and beeping and everything. And they're answering and gobbling, and we kind of had a big laugh about that. And then they'd circle around and come in on the back side of us and then come in on the left side of us. And I don't know, it off and on for about 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden, Jeff hollered, and he said, "There's a coyote come out of that holler just a flying at me." And so that's kind of unnerving with him. But
yeah, that's one of the weird things I do is when I go out in the woods, and I go by myself a lot because Kyle works during the week, and I'll go out after work, and I do wear the headphones. And it's a weird feeling when you're alone out in the middle of the woods and you got the headphones on. I find that I'm constantly, as I'm swinging, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm just always nervous that a person or an animal is going to sneak up on me. So I'm always, I don't want to say paranoid, but I'm constantly looking around to make sure that nothing gets to jump on me.
Yeah, I see Matt Purdue put in Bear Master Ford. Jeff Ford, he doesn't mind bears. He runs out and catches them.
I've seen him catch a few of them.
Yeah, he's character. I tell you, we and y'all are all going to get together. I heard. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the plan. There's an organized hunt in Ohio. Usually it's like in mid-late summer. And the Nibbler and I are going to take a ride out. Jeff's going to try to get over. It's kind of a halfway point, him and Missouri Mike. And it's not far from JL Digger Jeremy, who's also a good friend of mine. And it would be a great way to get all together. It's a kind of halfway point. And, I'm looking forward to it. I hope everything works out. I know me and Kyle are going to go. We've already cleared it with the missus, and that's the hardest part. So, hopefully Jeff can make it happen too, and we'll all get together. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. Jeremy, J.L. Digger, he came down a couple of summers ago and hunted with me and kind of left me an open invitation to come up that way into Ohio, and I really need to do that sometime. Me and Jeff just need to.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy too. Yeah, he'd give you the shirt off his back. He's such a nice guy, Jeremy.
He is. Have you seen any of the shovels that he makes?
Absolutely, I have. In fact, he offered to let me give one away on one of my live streams, and I was honored. But I said, look, I don't get a lot of traffic on my live streams, and I'd hate to, give one of them away there. But I said, maybe we'll come up with something, and I would do whatever to help him out. He's a great guy. Those shovels look incredible. He makes them in different lengths, and he's even working on making a custom small digger, like a hip digger, kind of like the Lesh. He's got one of those. He sent me some pictures of it. So he's going to have those coming out too. And they look really high quality. I haven't gotten my hands on one yet. I know he started advertising right around Christmas, so I hope he got a good rush of them because, I love supporting the other diggers. And, it looks like a quality-made shovel, and I was advertising on my live streams. I do know a few other guys that have bought them off of him. I want to say out in California, the Relic Rangers. Those guys got one off of him, and great craftsmanship. It looks high quality. It's got the serrated shark teeth on both sides, where my Piranha's only got them on the one. So it looks like a great piece. I can't wait to get one.
Well, he had those whenever he came here, and I got to see one. He was just making a prototype at the time. But it is a well-built shovel. I don't know what kind of price range that he has on those. I don't know that he was settled on what kind.
Well, he's got he's got a website now, and the prices are on there, and they're comparable with the other. With the Samsons and with the Predator tools. They're comparable, but it's a high-quality, well-made shovel. And like I had said on my streams before, for me in this hobby, there's a few pieces of equipment that you do not want to skimp out on. You want to get yourself a good shovel, and you want to get yourself a good pinpointer. I even say, if anything, I'd rather skimp out on the detector itself than have a bad shovel that's going to bend or break on me when I'm in the middle of the woods, and then my hunt's over. I mean, you can get away with a lower-end detector. You'll still hear everything. But if you don't have a good shovel and a good pinpointer, your day's just not good. It's going to be a miserable time.
It is. And, you put a shovel, if you dig very much, you put a shovel through a lot of stress. And they've got to be well built. I've tried some cheap stuff before, and they just don't last, And you're like me.
Yeah, when I first started, that's how the same thing. I had the Lowe's long-handle shovel that was wood-handled that broke. And I had a cheap dollar store, garden trowel I was using as my hand shovel. And I probably went through 5 of them in a month. And then finally I said, I'm going to bite the bullet. Those prices are a little intimidating when you look at them. But you get what you pay for. That's not just a saying. It's really true. And when I finally bought a nice shovel, even though they're a little expensive, it's lasted me years already. And they're just as good as the day I bought them.
Yeah, I use a Predator Ranger, and I really love that shovel. It's I don't like the long one. We gave away a Predator Piranha, and it's a long T-handle shovel, and I'm not crazy about the length of that. I like the shorter shovel with the kind of D handle, where you can put your hand in there and carry it that way and what have you. And I really like it. It is a well-built shovel. And I've yet
I do too. Mine's the D-handle Predator also. So I'm with you. Mine is the longer shaft, but everyone's different. I like to be able to stand upright. Doesn't hurt my back as much bending over with the short ones.
Yeah. Well, it's I'm kind of the same way. I like mine because it's the perfect height that whenever I dig a hole, I can just put it up under my armpit and help myself up. When you get older, you got to have help getting up out of, from where you've dug a hole. You use.
I think even when you're younger, you need help getting up.
Yeah. You use a AT Pro just about all the time, don't you? Is that your only detector?
I have a few other ones. That's my main one. I have some cheaper ones that I keep in my trunk when I door knock. If I'm sensing that the homeowner isn't sure, I'll say, hey, do you want to join me? And a lot of times that gets me over the hump. So I always keep 2 or 3, but they're low ends. I have an Ace 250, an Ace 350, and I have 2 bounty hunters. So I keep them. I usually keep 2 in the trunk when I'm door knocking as a last resort. But my main machine that I use all the time is the AT Pro, and I seem to have a collection of coils for it growing now because I just keep wanting to try different coils for different terrain.
Yeah. Real quick, Matt produced that I need something slightly bigger than my 31-inch Samson T-handle. That's what I had, Matt. I've still got it, but that's what I was using. And I went to the Predator Ranger shovel, and the blade on that thing is quite a bit longer. I mean, you can dig a deep hole real quick. The thing I didn't like about the Samson was that the blade wasn't long enough. You had to, you had to dig a hole out, and then you had to dig it out again to get down to 8 inches. Where with the Predator, I can just go around the hole, just make 4 cuts, and I'm down 8 inches already. And I saw, you see a lot of those Predator Ranger shovels, and they just looked like something that I would like, and I bought one, and I've been thoroughly pleased with it. You were talking about coils. I noticed on your last video that you've got a small nail coil for your AT Pro. Talk about that.
Yeah, I actually that's right out of the box for me. I just bought that last week. I already had 2 oversized coils. I had the stock coil and I had the 5x8 coil. This is the NEL Snake. It's their sniper coil. It's the smallest coil that they have. And let me see. I'll see if I can look up the exact dimensions of it. I don't remember offhand. But it is tiny. I held up to my hand. It's not even as big as my hand. When I got the box in the mail, before I opened it, I thought, they must have sent me the wrong thing. It looked like there was a bar of soap in there. But it is a tiny little thing. But, and when I first saw it, I was like, I think I made a mistake. This thing's going to be too small. But I'll tell you what, when I got out into the woods and all these sticker bushes that I normally have to walk around and skip, I can get this little head right into the tightest places. So now I'm hitting a lot of things that I'm hitting spots I couldn't get to before, and I'm also separating my finds like crazy. When I go out in the woods and I find these cellar holes and there's nails all over the place, that big coil can't separate, and I'll go as slow as I can to try to get that separation, but sometimes you just can't. And this thing is picking things out in between, and it's incredible. I think I'm going to leave this on for a couple of woods hunts. The depth obviously isn't as far down as the big coil, but the big coil wasn't hearing them. So, you take what you can get. There you go. Tim Henderson just said 6.5 by 3.5. It is small.
Yeah.
But,
and Ron Reed just came in.
This video that I put up with oh yeah, there's Ron. What's up, big dog?
Good.
So yeah, this is my first one with it. And now since the video that I put out today came out, I think I've been on 3 other hunts with it. And I really like it. In fact, my digging partner, he's buying one also. So, like I said, different things for different terrains. I love the big coil at the farms. And I went to the farm about maybe 2 weeks ago, and the farmer didn't take the corn all the way to the ground. So there's like 18-inch stalks all over the place. So it was really hard for me to swing with the big coil, even though I can move in between the rows. I'm banging into the stalks, and that AT Pro falses a lot if you bang it up against something. So I was thinking, man, I said, I love doing the farms in the winter, and I can't do it because the corn's not down. So this little snake coil is going to save me for some good farm trips too, because I've got plenty of room to swing it in between those corn stalks. So I'm looking forward to it. A new addition to the arsenal. And, so far it's got me some good finds. Yeah,
sounds good. Dump Site Digger is in. Hello, Jim.
Jim, how are you?
Appreciate you coming in.
Jim's not far from me.
Yeah, he signed up for DIV with me. Me and Jim are on the alternate list, and I think we're going to make it. Barb sent me a message the other night and told me that my treasure spot had put out a thing that if we were alternates, we needed to send in a message that we definitely 100% would attend if they moved us up. And I probably would have missed that if she hadn't sent me that message. And then Jim sent me a message that I needed to, I think, make my email available to them, and I did that. So everybody's helping me out, and I've still got my fingers crossed, Jim. I think we're going to probably get there. Talking about those little...
I remember Jim was trying to get in that DIV last year, and he didn't make it. I think he was disappointed. I hope he does get in, this year. I know he's been looking forward to it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Talking about the depth on the little coils for the AT Pro, I've got a spot at a Civil War site that I hunt that was an old house, and it's absolutely full of junk and nails. But I have found a breastplate there. I found a lot of good stuff out of that section. And I put on my little 5x8 coil on my AT Pro, and just was working real slow with it. And I dug you know how the pieces on a shoulder scale or an epaulette are, they're not really all that big.
Yeah.
I dug one of those at 9 inches, and I could hear it just as clear as a bell with that 5x8. So I think a lot of times we don't give those smaller coils the credit that we probably ought to.
Yeah, I've been finding some decent things. The hunt I did, the video didn't air yet. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I found a piece that was probably about 4 inches around, and that was about maybe 9 inches deep. So it does hit it, but I'll tell you what, when I swing it over something really tiny, like a little piece of buckshot or a 22 casing, it sounds loud and proud. It really grabs on to those small targets and blasts that sound in your ear. So, if you're a coin shooter, it's really looking for those little targets. Obviously you'll hear the big ones too, but it seems like it was made to zone in on the small stuff.
Well, it sounds like a good addition to anyone's arsenal. And now Jeff's got the little bitty puck. You know what I'm talking about? The little small
yes,
one.
Yes.
He's never used that while we were hunting, but I know the place that we call Harmonica Hill, we went to our 5x8 coils because there's so many bushes and rocks and trees and everything. And some of our best finds, well, two I can remember. One of them was he found his first 2-center, 1864 2-cent piece, and it was in around a bunch of rocks, and his stock coil, he couldn't have got it in there. And then I found a first-year Fatty Indian in 1859, and it was right up against a little sapling. And if I'd have had my big coil on, there was no way I would have ever heard that. So,
the first time I took it out, I came home. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm a talker, Louis. When I got home for the first time using my new coil, now I have a spot not far from me, and every digger probably has a spot that's close to your home that you'll go to and just kick around for an hour, instead of driving really far. So I have a little go-to spot that has an old cellar hole, and I've probably been there 25 times over the years. So I took it there so I can kick it around. I know there's all sorts of signals. And like I said, I was finding so many signals that I missed with the big coil. I got home and told my wife, the spot is almost like new again, because I'm hearing things that I just couldn't hear before because my coil was too big and it couldn't separate. So they really are amazing.
I've got a Colonial sat that's like that. It's probably, I don't know, it's less than a quarter of a mile from my house. In fact, it's the first Colonial site here in our county that I ever found, and I guess I found probably 50 flat buttons at the place, and
wow,
hunted it mainly with my CTX 3030. That's what I started hunting it with, and hunted it, and then I went with my AT Pro with a stock coil, and was having trouble separating stuff there, and I went to the 5x8 on it. And I found, it was my first piece of cut silver. I had found some half reals before, 2 or 3 of those, but it was my first cut 8 that I found, and I wouldn't have found it without the 5x8 coil. But you do have to slow down, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. When I first got it, I was showing Kyle. I literally, with one left to right swing from just past my left foot to my right foot, it probably takes me 4 seconds. So, I'm moving it that slow. And if I hear the slightest little blip, then I'm going back and I'm circling, trying to zone in on it. You do have to move it really slow, but I swing slow even with a big coil. I don't mind going back to a house a second day, but I really want to make sure that I'm going slow and I'm hearing everything that I can hear. I'm not in a race to finish any place. You know what I mean? I'll go back again and again. What do I care? So I always go slow anyway, but I do go extra slow with this small coil because it's not covering much ground anyway, so I sure don't want to miss anything.
If I could give some advice to any beginning metal detector, it would be slow down and go slow, because I know almost any detector that you're talking about, whether you're talking about an ACE 250 or a high-end Mine Lab, it takes a while for you to be able to lock on to a target. Have you found that?
Well, I always have like I said, I'll move at my normal speed, which is a turtle speed to begin with. And as soon as I hear a blip, it'll stop me in my tracks, and I'll go left, right. I'll turn 90 degrees, go left, right. I really want to make sure I know what it is, and I hear it from all directions, and really know exactly where my target is in the ground. Now, I dig a lot of trashy signals that a lot of guys wouldn't dig, but I like finding that weird. I'll even dig iron. I like finding those weird things. So I'll dig those crazy signals, but I want to make sure I know right where it is, because I don't want to dig a frisbee-sized hole for a millimeter-sized target. So I do want to make sure I'm really locked on. I'll pinpoint, and I'll use the head of my detector to find where the object is, and then I'll pinpoint on top of it just to kind of confirm it. But yeah, I do really like to try to lock on before I get the shovel in the ground.
Yeah. And Barb is in the house. Hello, Barb. Appreciate you sending me a message the other night and me getting back on there and confirming that I would come. I still got my fingers crossed. I think that we're probably going to make it. I know everybody wants to know about the witch's jar. Tell us that story.
Well, that was a weird one for me. I was out with a new guy. It was the first time I met him, actually. We went out together. We were back in the middle of the woods somewhere, and I came across this large grassy area in the middle of the woods. And I was seeing some flowers on the ground, and I knew something was up. So we started detecting there real slow, and we started finding weird things. I found a salt shaker with coins in it. And then we found a mason jar that had balled up newspaper and like these weird little rocks inside of it. We were finding this really weird stuff. I didn't know what it was. And then I found a full mason jar, and inside I could see through the glass that there was coins. I could see paper, notes, magazine clip outs, and all this kind of weird stuff. And at the time in the field, I thought it was a time capsule. And, for me, I get a lot of slack for rubbing my coins out in the field. I can't help myself. I love to see what they are. I can't always wait. I'm gentle, but I always give them a rub. That's a downfall I have. But I had the wherewithal to say, I'm not going to open this jar in the field. I'm going to wait until I get home. So I brought it home. And when I brought it home, I was showing my wife. I was so excited. I thought I found a time capsule. And my wife noticed that there was a drawing on the lid of the jar. It was a heart, and it had some initials on there. So then I thought it might have been something different, maybe some sort of a love jar or something like that. So my wife actually did the research on it, and she found that she thought originally it was a witch's love jar that, those Wiccan earthy people, they would put things in there. They would bury it in the ground, and they'd say some sort of a chant over it or whatever, and try to hope for prosperity or for love or whatever, whatever happens to be. So when I did finally open this jar, it was bizarre. There was a lot of stuff that when I first opened it, I thought was just all garbage, like weird things that didn't mean anything to me. I saw there was a shriveled up squirrel's tail. There was a necklace that looked like it was silver. Turns out it wasn't. There was this long handwritten note about spaceships, and it is marking off constellations. And there was all this stuff of an homage to Princess Grace Kelly. There was photos of her. There was biblical passages with her picture tucked in there. There was another picture with a feather going through it. And I thought, this has to be some sort of a passing of Princess Grace, and this woman was maybe trying to, pay homage to her. So I had a lot of people help with this to try to figure out what it was. And then once the video posted, I had all these I hate to say witches. It sounds so Wizard of Oz-y, but I had all these people in that community of Wiccans or whatever they're called comment and let me know what each individual piece meant. So then started to become like a mystery to me. And I was so excited to figure out, what all these puzzle pieces meant. And on the note, there was a name and an address written on there. So then with help from another friend, I was able to track down the name, and it turned out that this name was the brother of a woman that lived within a half a mile of where I found the jar. So I thought, well, this woman or someone, related to her must have been the person that buried it. So it took me about a week, and I mustered up the courage, and I said, I'm going to go out to her house. I'm going to knock on the door. I'd love to talk with her. I didn't know if I was going to tell her that I found this jar, because I didn't know, some people with their religion, that might have been a disgrace that I dug it up, even if it was accidental. It was on public land, but it could have been a disgrace. So I wasn't sure if I was going to tell her, but I just wanted to kind of communicate with her and see where she was coming from. And I wasn't sure what I was going to say. So I thought, all right, what I'll do is I'm going to knock on her door, and I'm going to ask her if I could metal detect on her property, just like I would anybody else, because I'm comfortable with that whole spiel. And I figured she'd say no, because if there was other jars buried on her property, obviously she wouldn't want me digging there. But I thought I can kind of have a conversation with her. And then, once you open the door, you know how I am, boy. I'll just talk and talk and talk, and I'd get some information out of her. I was just interested in who she was. And when I finally got her to open the door on my second trip back, she opened up the door about maybe 2 feet. She looked at me and just said, "Please leave." And then she closed the door again. And it was creepy. It was creepy. I mean, her house was way back off the road in the woods, and she was a little old dark-skinned woman, and she had an accent, like an islandy accent, and it really creeped me out. And I just kind of froze there for a second. And then I just left. I've been debating ever since if I should write her a letter or if I should try to make contact with her in some other way. And my wife just keeps telling me, just leave it alone, just leave it alone. But I was just so curious. But I still have the jar. I still have all the contents. I put everything back in there. There were some old coins in there, nothing super valuable, but I put everything back in. And it's just in my garage in a box right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But, that video, for me was incredible because it had a lot of views. And not that I do it just for the views, but it was a fascinating story, at least to me, because it was such a unique find. I mean, I love the weird finds. I mean, that's why I do this. That's the treasure for me. I mean, I could dig up 50 silver quarters, but I mean, it doesn't have anything special about them. It's just another quarter. How many silver quarters do you need? But you find something so interesting and unique like that, they're my favorite types of finds, and that by far was the most bizarre and the most special thing I've ever gotten.
And what really surprised me about it, and I think what made it so good, you put out that first video whenever you found it, and your wife was filming for you, and she was saying, "Don't open it, don't open it, don't open it," and because you get some bad mojo. I think somebody said on here a while ago, and run, but when you got all of that stuff together and did the research, and I know you had some help because you mentioned that on your follow-up videos on that. It was about Princess Grace, and a lot of the things that you found were like was it 1982 whenever she died?
82, 83, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and some of the coins that were in there were commemorative of the year that she died, and then the old wheat coins. Didn't you find out that was the birthday of her and her brother and maybe someone else?
Yeah, there was amidst the coins there were 3 wheat pennies in there, and they each had some tape around them. And I don't know if there was something else in there. Over the years, a little bit of moisture got in the jar, so if there was writing on that tape, it had gone away. But almost by accident, in looking up these wheat pennies, one of the wheat pennies was the birth year of the woman that buried it, The other one was the birth year of her brother, and the third wheat penny was the birth year of Princess Grace. So the most amazing thing was when I first opened it and I put all this, it looked like just like you opened up a junk drawer and dumped it in this jar. But once you start doing the research, it all made sense, in her mind at least. Like there was a plan of attack when she put this jar together. Every single piece had meaning. Whether the common person understands it or not, or whether you think she's a crazy person is besides the point. It all had meaning to her, and it all correlated into this jar. And, I've been, one of the things that's been bugging me too, and I've gotten a lot of emails, is, are you going to go back there? Because I'm sure if she made this jar for Princess Grace, I would bet the farm that there's a bunch of other jars buried in that same area, maybe for other people that she admired or family members or things like that. But when I realized what it was, that ground almost kind of became sacred to me. Like it would seem like I'm digging in the cemetery. Like that was her sacred burial ground. And the things I'd be finding would be her, her wishes of whatever the afterlife would be. And I just thought it would be disrespectful to go back and disturb that. So, I've never gone back once I realized what it was. And, I won't tell anybody the spot for the same reason. And I'm just going to let, whatever her wishes were, stay where they are.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. And, we don't hunt in cemeteries and most.
No, I wouldn't either.
I mean, that's just kind of an unwritten law in metal detecting. I'm sure that there probably are a few people that would. But I think most of the community, the majority of the community, wouldn't even think about that because there are some things, that are off limits and that we consider sacred. And as crazy, I guess you could say, as the whole deal looks and seems, it wasn't crazy to her. I mean, it's special to her. And she also had...
Yeah, to her, it was amazing.
Yeah, she also had constellations drawn out and different times during the 24-hour period that correlated with all of that. It's amazing that you figured all that out. Of course,
I'm telling you.
Go ahead.
I figured out maybe 20% of it, but once the video posted, I had thousands of comments come in. I had a comment come in from a professor at a college helping me to explain the constellations. And what he was telling me was he looked up the constellations that she drew on this note. And the constellations, there was some, I think he said it was I guess it was like a shooting star. There was something going through the sky. So the night Princess Grace died, this one went outside and saw this thing in the sky and followed it and drew what constellation it was near and the time. And in her mind, that was a chariot taking Princess Grace's soul like out of this world. And she was marking its path on this note. I mean, crazy or not, this woman was dedicated, and she had a little bit of a brain on her shoulders, even though it might be untraditional and we don't get it. But it all made sense to her. And also on that same note that she had, there was a drawing at the bottom of the note that had these constellations. I wasn't sure what it was at first either. And if you go back and watch the video, I think it's a map of that area of the woods. There's a tall tree off to the side, a big oak tree on her drawing. Then there's this diamond that I think was a dais, which is the kind of the area I was at. And then she has little symbols drawn around that dais, which I think may have been spots where she buried things, because one of the symbols was a heart, and there was a heart drawn on the top of my bottle lid. So I think that she maybe made a map of where she buried things. So, like I said, it was an amazing find for me. And people are saying you should go back and rebury it. I don't even know. I don't even want to go back there. I don't know what to do with the jar, but I don't want to go back there. I was debating on leaving the jar on her doorstep and just anonymously and leaving, but I don't want her to think that, like, what was this person doing? Like, that might be really creepy to her. I'm not sure. At the moment, my mindset is just, I'm just not going to mention it to her. She'll never know that I found it. And in her mind, there'll be peace because whatever she buried is still there. Like I said, you never know what you're going to find. It's not like I did anything, purposeful. It was on public land. I found it. It was in a mason jar. I found the lid. It was attached. It's just that I don't know if she would find it to be disrespectful. I mean, for all I know, she'd be like, oh, my goodness, I can't believe you found it. Thank you. But I don't know. So I find it better if I just kind of leave it alone.
I don't think that she would. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think that she would probably be upset that somebody had found.
I would think so too.
Found it and dug it up.
I would think so too.
Because I think.
Yeah, I would think so too.
If you go to all the trouble of correlating all of that stuff together, and I yet don't understand why she would have a wheat penny with her birth date and a wheat penny with her brother's birth date unless they both were together and saw this anomaly in the sky and figured out all the constellations. It's an amazing story, and it skyrocketed you on YouTube, didn't it?
It was a big help. I mean, when I put it up, I probably had close to 2,000 subscribers. So I mean, I wasn't super tiny, but I mean, I certainly wasn't that big. And in probably the course of the next couple of months, it shot me up to over like 9,000 or 10,000. And that video still gets thousands of views every day because you get your analytics and you see what people are watching. And when you watch one, you almost have to watch the second one because the first one where I actually found it, I found so many cool things that video was like 25 minutes long. So I said, I don't want to open the jar in the same video and have this hour-long marathon video. So I said, what, I'm going to open it in the next video. Not at the time, not even thinking that that's kind of like a cliffhanger. I mean, I guess in the back of my mind, I knew it would be, but my intention was I just didn't want to have an hour-long video. I try to keep mine around 20 minutes or less. So I made it into the second video. So when you watch the one, you're almost like, oh my goodness, what was in the jar?
Yeah.
So then it bleeds over to the second one. And then I did a third one explaining what everything was as all the comments came in and I verified it. That way, if anybody was really interested, a lot of people after the second video, they saw it open. They thought what I first thought, oh, this is a bunch of junk. Some crazy person emptied their junk drawer. But when you watch the third video and really see what everything means and how it all ties together, at least you can understand, if you're in her mind, you can understand that this was a well thought out plan that she did in this jar. It wasn't just her grabbing a bunch of garbage and throwing it in a jar. I mean, everything had meaning, at least to her and her brother maybe. And then she did it in a respectful way, and she buried it, to give peace to Princess Grace's soul.
I know it was an amazing video. I saw the first one whenever you found it, and obviously I think I felt what everybody else felt whenever they watched it. I want to see that jar open. And so I was looking for I was looking for your next video, and then I wondered, kind of like your wife, if I found that, would I open it? Because you're seeing feathers and what looks like a chicken bone and stuff, and it's creepy. I mean, it's kind of out there a little bit. So I don't know that
it is creepy.
I would have opened it.
You say that, but if you had that jar in front of you with all that stuff, it's hard not to open it just out of curiosity. I mean, I don't think there's anything that could have stopped me from opening it. No, I didn't desecrate it. I put it all back in because I didn't know what it was. I mean, what do I know about witches' jars at the time? I never even heard of a witch's jar. So when I opened it, I assumed it was a time capsule that maybe a kid buried or somebody buried and put in things from, whatever the time period was. I didn't even know that a witch's jar was a thing. It wasn't until after it and we figured it all out. Even the chicken bone and the squirrel tail, when I first took them out, I thought they were fishing lures because my brain doesn't even go to witch jar. You know, it just doesn't go there.
Yeah.
So I thought they were like some sort of a handmade fishing lure. And then again, like it wasn't until you start looking at everything as a whole, when you look at each individual piece, it looks like junk. But when you look at it, the big picture, then my brain started saying, you know what? Maybe there's something here. And the note was a big one. I mean, if the note wasn't in there with the constellations and the map, you know, I might not have pursued it much longer. But the note really got me, you know, wanting to figure out what was going on.
Chris Hamsoff said, "Attention, all witches, bury your jars deeper."
I saw that. It's funny. The jar was probably 10 inches deep, but you know, those mason jar lids, they're big. So, I mean, your coil is going to hear them.
Yeah.
You might hear a mason jar lid at 15 inches. So if you're going to bury them out there, witches, don't use an aluminum mason jar lid.
Matt Purdue said use a plastic jar. But I watched that second.
Right,
I watched the second video after you came out with it. I knew that you would open it, and I'm like you. I would have opened it eventually. And I watched that second video, and you know, you kind of look at it and you said, you know, this doesn't make any sense. But then you've got the note, you've got the paper, and my first thought was, there's something to this. I don't know what it is, but there's something to it. And then whenever you did the final wrap-up video, where after you and the people that you consulted and the people that got in contact with you, it all made sense. And it is an amazing story, I tell you, an amazing find, and something that...
It was my most amazing. I mean, most people's amazing find is amazing because maybe it's valuable. And believe me, mine had no monetary value. But for me, it was my most amazing find. I can't even imagine what would beat it, because not only was it so interesting, but that find kept my mind working for probably almost a month, unsolving, or at least trying to solve that mystery. So I don't know what find I would ever get that would be so intriguing that, you know, day after day after day for almost a month, you're researching more and more and more because there's so many pieces to it. I don't know if I could ever find anything, you know, more interesting to me than that.
And I know you. Of course, we've never met face to face, but we've been friends for, I guess, a couple of years now. I know you. Whenever you get on a mission, you're on a mission. I mean, you're going to find out what's what on the thing, and you know, you're kind of fighting against your wife. I mean, y'all are not fighting or arguing over it or anything, but she's doing the same thing that my wife would do. You know, I don't know if we ought to open that jar. You know, you may be bringing a bad spell in. And Jeff is really superstitious. We helped and I can only imagine what he would do if we were to dig something like that up. I don't think Jeff would open it. I'll just be honest with you. We helped a guy one time.
I know my wife wouldn't have opened it. If it was up to my wife, it would have never gotten opened.
Yeah,
and I get it. Some people are really superstitious like that.
Yeah. Jeff and I helped a historian here who restores and renovates old cemeteries and things whenever they've been neglected. And we went and worked with him, and he actually witches graves. And if you know what that is, you've got a couple of copper bent L probes in your hand. Now, some people don't believe it, but it really does work, and this guy is really good at it. And he can mark the graves in a graveyard where cattle in our area. We've got a lot of graveyards that are up in the woods that cattle or hogs have been in, and all the stones are pushed over, and they've been covered up over the years. And he can go in there and mark all of the graves, and then we can scratch around there and generally find the stones and get them back up. And then we'll work with a landowner and fence it in to where animals and things can't get in. And as I've already pointed out, we don't metal detect in graveyards, but we do help him. Anyway, the guy was showing Jeff how to witch a grave. And Jeff's walking along and watching those rods whenever they would come together or when they would go out. And I snuck around and I told him, I said, in a minute, I said, before we leave, you tell Jeff every grave that you witch, you will dream about those people. Those people will come to you tonight in a dream. And he did. And it was hilarious. I mean, just the look on Jeff's face. So I don't think he would have opened it.
I mean, I would get it. I don't think I couldn't have not opened it. My wife was very spooked out by the whole thing. She was very reluctant. From the day I brought it home, I didn't open it for about 5 days later because I had to almost talk her into it. And I needed her help. I needed someone to hold the camera because I wanted to, I wanted to film it live as I opened it so people would know there's no shenanigans going on. I thought there was, I thought there was going to be valuables in there. So as it turns out, I could have just filmed it myself. But and it took me forever to get that jar open. Apparently, these witches would drip melted wax around the lid to keep it from being opened. So I had to hold it in this really hot water. I was really cranking on it. I was wrapping it on the steps like a peanut butter jar, and finally got that crack to open up.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, I tell you. Tim Henderson said that's why Jeff found the gold ring. He had the good mojo. So I guess that's probably part of it. But on the gold ring that Jeff found, on the jar that the witch jar that you found, it's just an opportunity to do research on something that has a background to it. And that's what makes this hobby so amazing to me, is the backstory of the things that we find.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the things you find, you can't. There's just no personalization to it. A spoon or a coin. But when you find a piece that has a little bit of information that is specific enough that you can track back and almost walk in that person's footsteps in your mind, those are the best finds, because those finds have meaning. Those are the finds that you want to share with everybody. And, as much as I love old coins, I mean, they really don't have any meaning. It's just a coin for your collection. But things like that, they don't come around very often. So when you do, at least for me, I really love to just get as much information as I can to have that story, even if I'm the only one that ever knows the story. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Matt Perdue said, it's not what you find, it's what you find out. And that's exactly right. That's exactly what it is.
That's it.
And you've had quite a few cases like that.
We have. We've been fortunate to find a few things and I think that's why my history clips go over so well, is because people like to hear the backstory on something, even if it's just a fork or a spoon. I did a history clip.
I saw the one with the color. That was great.
Yeah, and it gives you a backstory on those things, and I think that's kind of the appeal of what we do. Not only that, you never know what's going to come out of the ground when you get a signal, and then if you're fortunate, it's going to be something that you can research and find something out about, and it just makes the find all that much more. It's like Matt said, it's not what you find, it's what you find out about what you found, if that makes any sense.
I love the relics much more than the coins, and I know I go by the quarter hoarder moniker, but that's only because the witch jar hoarder just doesn't have a nice ring to it.
And it's got a bad mojo too. I don't know if I should have had you on, Jason. I may be complicit.
Well, like I said, you can't help what you stumble across when you're out there digging. There was definitely no animosity. Not animosity. What's the word? Like, I wasn't looking to desecrate anything. It was out in the middle of the woods. And I found it, and it just so happened to be something different than what I thought it was going to be.
Well, you can't.
But you never know what you're going to find.
That's right. You can't help what you stumble up on, but you you can
Right.
help opening it. And Becky said,
Well, but who would have thought that it would have been that? I mean, would you? Maybe you would have. You know, maybe you've down south. Maybe there's chicken bones and stuff are more of a a clue. Up here in New Jersey, you don't hear a lot of stuff about voodoo and witch jars. I mean, I'm right out of Philadelphia, so to me, I thought it was a fishing lure.
yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you something other. Down south, when we get through with the chicken, they ain't no bones. we eat it all. Becky said that you ought to burn sage to clean the air around the jar and the place that you found it. It's an amazing.
I don't know what to do.
I don't either.
It's in a bag right now. When I opened it, I don't want to get gruesome or anything, but when I was researching it online, I read that when these people buried it, they would put a personal bodily fluid in the jar as a personalization, and you can use your own imagination what that might be. But I was kind of, after the fact, I was kind of skeeved because I only had one glove on when I was going through the stuff.
That's what I was fixing to say.
In retrospect, I should have had two gloves on.
Well, you lived through it and got the videos out. And does that video have a number or a name? Because I'm sure.
Someone else mentioned that. I wish I had a numbering system. People say I should go back and number them. I don't. It was probably 9-10 months ago now. They'd have to go back. If you go to my channel, my main channel, I think on my homepage, I have like a list of my most recent videos, and under that are my most popular videos, and that's clearly my number one most popular one if they're interested in it. And I have a little playlist of the three in a row, so you can see the finding it, the opening it, and then the unraveling it, and then I talk about when I went through her house. But to me, I mean, it was a fascinating find. It was fascinating to unveil it, and I'm so glad I had YouTube or some sort of forum to share that with, because something like that, if it was only me and my wife that knew it, I would have felt like, man, what a cool story. I wish I could have shared it with somebody. And that's the beauty of why I do the YouTube, because when I first started detecting, it was just me out in the woods. None of my friends were really into it. So I was by myself, and I'd find something cool. I'd come home and I'd show my wife, and my wife would give me the customary wife nod and be like, "Oh, that's great, honey," but she's not really into it. So, when I found YouTube and you can share these with other like-minded people that appreciate this, at least I felt like, man, at least I can talk about it. Because it's hard to get really excited when you're by yourself and none of your friends are really into it. So I was the only one that really cared.
Yeah, and Chris Heimsoff, I think, just put the link to your video there
okay. Thanks,
in the chat. So, and by the way, I may not be asking the questions that you would like to. Let me give you the call-in number again. I'd like to see if our Skype is working, if I could add somebody. Anyway, but if you've got a question for Jason that you'd like to get in before the show ends, the number is 270-495-0315. And if somebody would help me out and put that back in the chat, just put call-in number 270-495-0315. And if you've got a question for Jason on that subject or anything else, we've spent a lot of time on this here. I was just looking back through the chat. Chris Heimsoff said that his brother had a lot of trouble with people breaking into his car in New Orleans, and the voodoo lady next door told him to hang a chicken's foot on his car. Said that he did, and nobody ever touched it again. Well,
I mean, maybe there's something to that stuff. I don't know. It's foreign to me. But, I mean, people practice things like that all over the world, whether you believe it or not. I mean, who knows? I mean, I certainly don't know all the mysterious things in this world.
Yeah. Matt Perdue said...
I don't know if I'm ready to go hang a chicken bone from my car, but you never know.
Yeah. Chris, or Matt Perdue said, Chris, would a Kentucky Fried Chicken wing bone suffice? That's kind of what it looked like, was just a wing bone on it.
Yeah, there was another one. It was an entire bird's wing that was wrapped in these biblical pages, and that was from what I remember, that was supposed to signify the angels. The biblical pages were the angels taking Princess Grace's soul up to heaven. That was supposed to be symbolic of. But yeah, there was a whole bird's wing in there also, wrapped in some Bible pages.
Yeah, I tell you guys, you have got to go watch all three of those videos. We're going to make you a fortune on that video because you monetize, and you're going to make a fortune off of that by the time everybody. And Jeff Ford said the show will not end, and that's true. You can't possibly answer everybody that has commented on that, can you?
Well, you know what? I try to make it a point to answer every comment on my videos, even if it's just a thank you. Now, the only exception, I got a couple of videos that. I'm sorry. Hold on a second.
The mojo got. The mojo got you.
Yeah, there was a few videos that got too many comments, and I just couldn't answer them. And some of the, like that one, I think got thousands of comments, and some of them are negative. Like some of the people, they thought, you opened up a witch jar, how dare you, and all this stuff. And I mean, what am I going to respond to that? Sorry. So some of the comments I won't even respond to if they're negative. That's just the way it goes. Like I said, I didn't even know what the heck it was. I opened it up. Once we figured it out, like I said, it's not like I desecrated it. I put it back together. But you don't know what you're going to find. I certainly don't know everything out there. I'm the worst person when it comes to IDs. So that's just the way, that's just what it was.
Chris Hamsoff put on here that that video has 597,999 views.
Wow.
We will get you over 600,000. There's no doubt.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's by far my most watched video. But it was my most interesting video. I'd almost be disappointed if another video where I found a couple Indian pennies got more views than that.
Yeah, I would too. And I'm kind of hoping that our Christian Beck video, it gets a little bit more play than some of ours, because I don't know, I'm up around 1,900. I never thought that would happen. But I love what we do. I love hunting. And
that's what it is. It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And there are some really good channels out there that I'm surprised don't have 500,000 subscribers. I think it just comes down to luck. But some of the guys, I watch every single video, and it's just amazing. Not only the video, but the quality. I mean, we all find good stuff. I'd like to think if you make a video, you're going to put your best things you found in there. So there's always good things, but it's how you present it. It's maybe some dialogue, a little bit of personality, and a little bit of luck that just, for whatever reason, yours takes off and the next person doesn't. And I know YouTube just made some change, of a week or two ago, where now the channels can't monetize unless they have a minimum of 1,000 subscribers and a minimum of 4,000 hours watched in the last year. So a lot of channels that were monetized and are smaller are now going to get cut off of that. So there's a lot of bitterness out there. And some of these channels, I think, should have a lot more, because I really enjoy it. And I'm a guy that this is really my only hobby. This is all outside of work and the kids and family, this is all I do. I just love going out. I'll go out almost every day, even if it's an hour. And then, if I find enough good things, I'll put a video up. But I just really enjoy going out. It's my hobby. So when I see another guy who you can really see is putting effort into it, I always try to watch and comment and shoot a little bit of, a comment just saying, hey, man, I'm out here. Because I know when I started, you put a video out and you get, 10 people that watched it. It's discouraging. So I always try to support especially the smaller channels. Because if not, they're gonna go away.
No, and that was kind of my mindset on doing shout outs, because we've been fortunate, to get the subscribers that we've got. And you look at some of those newer channels, and I know that they're making the effort to put those out, and I want people to go and look at them. Of course, it's up to them. Then content is what's going to keep people coming back and watching your channel, watching your videos, and what have you. But give them a shot at it anyway, by giving them a shout out. And I've had people tell me, that they've picked up, 50 or 100 subscribers when you do a shout out for them. And I think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, and when you're a channel that's got 100 subscribers, and then all of a sudden you jump 50 more, that is huge to them, and that makes them feel good. It makes them be motivated to go out and make more videos, and that's what this hobby is all about. I think metal detecting in general is sort of still kind of underground, no pun intended. We're not the biggest hobby out there, so I do like supporting each other. When I do my live streams, I try to get everybody's name out there. I send everybody those goofy logo stickers I made. I must have sent 1,000 of them out, and I don't charge a penny, not even for the stamp. I even pay for the stamp. I really try to get all the channels involved as much as I can. And like I said, I'll seek out the smaller channels and watch their stuff and comment. I try not to be negative, but I might say, oh, your video might be helpful if you turn the camera landscape, or, something like that, just little tips in a way that could only help them.
Yeah.
But I try to seek those smaller channels out.
Jeff Ford, he said, I lost 12 subscribers when 7 did my shout out.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm going to tell you something other, Jeff. If I get to DIV this year, you might ought to watch your detector, because you don't know what your settings are going to be whenever I get done with it. Crazy thing. He is a character.
Now, I want to ask you, Lloyd, I know last year when you did DIV, were you using a Pulse or the CTX machine?
Both. I didn't own a Pulse machine at the time, and I borrowed a White's TDI and used it. But then we got in some woods that hadn't been hunted all that much, and I took my CTX 3030 in there, and I was able to find 3 or 4 gardeners and maybe a button and some stuff that just wasn't deeper, and didn't seem like that the soil in the woods was as mineralized. But I'll give anybody a tip. Don't go to Virginia and try to hunt without a Pulse machine, because you're going to be sorely disappointed, I'll tell you.
I heard that ground down there is tough. If you don't have a good Pulse machine, you might come out of there empty-handed.
Yeah. There was a bunch of people that, in fact, Jeff Ford told me whenever he saw that I was going to DIV, he said, you're going to have a Pulse machine. And
yeah, he told me the same thing.
Yeah, it was good advice, because yes, you do. You have to have one. I'm not saying that you can't go into Virginia soil and not find anything, because if it's a place that hadn't been hunted, which it's kind of hard for me to think of any place in Virginia probably that hadn't been hunted, you're going to be disappointed, because those VLF machines just will not penetrate through that ground. Everything sounds like iron. I had Jeff with his CTX go over. I said, holler at me whenever you get a bullet sound. I want to see what it sounds like on CTX. And he said, here's a perfect bullet sound. And I went over and it just sounded just terrible iron signal. I mean, something that you wouldn't have dug. And some of them I couldn't hear at all, because I guess the mineralization probably masked the target. But it was it was a learning experience for me, and I figured out pretty quick that I was going to get me one. And Matt Purdue just bought a GPX, and he told me, sent me a message that he was that he had got it, and that he was going to go out Monday. I hadn't had a opportunity to talk to him to see. He was going to go to his button tree, but I've gone to places that I have hunted to death with a CTX and an AT Pro, and I'm finding bullets and other relics that just are screamers. I cannot believe that I couldn't hear them with a CTX or an AT Pro.
Wow. Yeah, but when I watched some of the videos of other guys from DIV last year, I saw a lot of pulse machines. And then from talking to Jeff also, he said, you know, if you ever go down there, your AT Pro is going to have a hard time unless you go out in the woods.
Yeah.
And I believe it. I don't think I saw hardly any AT Pros out on the farm fields.
No, not in the. And Matt's right. GPX doesn't like a air between the coil and the ground. But I'm going to tell you something. Or Jeff Ford was telling Matt that no detector likes air between the coil and the ground. Put that coil on the ground and move it just as slow and low as you can.
Yep, mow the lawn with it.
Yeah. Let me give the number out again. I wish somebody'd call in and asked Jason a question. 270-495-0315. We don't have that much longer to go. Probably less than 15 minutes left in the show if we cut it off at an hour and a half. But if we get something going here, I'm not against running a little bit over if Jason is, but I'd love to hear your questions. You can either put them in chat or call us, either one, and let us know. When did you get started hunting? How long have you been hunting, Jason?
Well, as a kid, I had a White's machine back in the 80s, and I was a little kid. I probably used it for about 8 or 9 months. I would take it with me when I went fishing, and I would goof around with it, but I was a kid. So I had a little bit of experience of what it was and the kind of things you'd find. It wasn't until about maybe 4 or 5 years ago that I bought one as a Christmas gift for my son. So I bought him one. I thought he would like it. I took him out to a park with it, and he was swinging it, and I found that, like, it brought back all these memories. I'm watching him use it, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I had one. I want to do it with you. So, about a week after Christmas, I went out and bought myself one. I think it was an Ace, like a 250 or a 350. So then we went out together, and of course, my son lost interest after about a month or two, but obviously I didn't. So, then I bought the AT Pro, and I've been going almost every weekend ever since. So I would say probably 4 or 5 years, something like that. I don't want to say full time, but where it's on your mind 24/7, probably about 4 years. But I had a little bit of experience with them from my younger days.
Yeah, I got my first detector. I remember it well. I bought my first one at a pawn shop in 1976. And it was an old white.
Wow!
It was an old White's machine, and I hadn't continuously hunted all of those years, but that's over 30 years. But hunted quite a bit back then. That then there was a school across the street from my house, and you could. I think the first day that I hunted, I probably found 50 silver coins because they were everywhere back then. That's about all you found, and.
Sure, yeah, they were only 12 years out of circulation.
Yeah, and
do you still have that machine tucked in a closet somewhere?
No, no. Whenever I get when I get done with one, I'm done with it. I generally get rid of it, but and I haven't continuously been in that long. I got on forums a few years ago, and I used to hunt parks and. Schools and old churchyards and things like that. And then I figured out that wasn't my bag of tea. I wanted to get into the older stuff, the historical stuff. And as a result, we don't find many Cohens, but when we do, we generally find a good one, I mean,
yeah, they're the old ones.
Yeah, we've been lucky. What is your forte? What, if you had a choice, what kind of hunting would you do all the time?
Well, that's a weird one for me too. Up in New Jersey, where we have a lot of age, and the few guys I've met at clubs and stuff, they will either they're beach hunters, which for some reason just doesn't interest me. I'm not knocking a gold ring, but I don't want to go to the beach and find modern jewelry. And the other guys, they do really old colonial sites, and I never have luck at those colonial sites. I've been to a few of them, and I never have any luck. So for me, my best places, I like to look for a house that was built somewhere between like 1860, 1920, and those are the places I love. I like things, they don't have to be, 300 years old for me to appreciate it. If I find something from the late 1800s with a patent date or something like that, those are my favorite. Those are my treasures. So I would say that I look for, places late 1800s, and I look for interesting relics, something that I could dig it out of the ground and make sense of what it is. Sure, I like the old coins too, and I show them on the videos because everyone can relate to an old coin and everyone appreciates that, but they're not my favorite. I like the weird things.
I'm gonna have to call him back. I've got Josh on the line, and I killed. Well, I shouldn't say kill, I guess, but I'm gonna call Hoarder back.
You want me to call back?
No, you're all right. Won't take me but a minute. He probably hadn't quit talking.
Yeah, he was still talking when I was listening, but then, I had to call in and throw a wrench in everything.
That's okay. I need to learn how to do it anyway. Are you still there, Hoarder?
Uh-oh.
I don't know what we've done with him.
I don't know.
I'm trying to add him to the call. He comes up here, but it's saying that the call failed. Let me go ahead and drop you, Josh, and that was my fault. Let me drop you and just get him back on the line. Hey, Jason.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, that was my bad. Josh called in, and I knocked you off some way. So sorry about that.
That's okay. That's all right. I figured everyone was making comments that the witch got me.
The witch got both of us. I tell you. Let me see if I can bring Josh back in now. I don't know if he called me from his show or what, but I'm going to try to add him to the call.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I've got everybody on. Josh, are you on now? I don't know if he is or not. Anyway, continue on with what you were saying whenever I cut you off.
Did I get cut off? I'm not sure where I left off.
Yeah.
But like I said, the places I like to hunt are from the Civil War to World War I, and that stretch. Those are my ideal hunting grounds.
Yeah. We've got Josh on.
1-930-59549 is.
Well, we don't have Josh on. Go ahead.
Well, you do, but you've called both of my lines.
I didn't do that. The witch
I
did
think we
that.
just broadcasted his number.
Yeah, the witch did that. Go ahead, Josh. You got a question for Jason?
Well, I thought it was a very interesting story that he's had with the witch's jar, and definitely a good guest tonight on your part, Seven. And then I heard him talking. It sounds like somebody mentioned beach and colonial hunting.
Yeah.
Is that your cup of tea there?
Well, my cup of tea is I do it all. I'm not too picky. I don't care if it's relic hunting, colonial, beach, woods, parks. Who cares? It's still history.
Yeah, where I am in New Jersey, it's weird. I only live about a half an hour from the ocean, and I'm Atlantic City, all the New Jersey beaches. But I don't know what it is. For some reason, when I get invited to detect the beach, I don't know. I don't seem to be as interested. I don't know why. I've never even given it a chance to know for sure. I'm not interested in modern jewelry, and it seems like the old stuff goes down so deep to the rock level that it's almost unreachable unless a big storm comes in. But I've never tried it for sure. Do you find old stuff at the beach?
Well, you can, but you are right. A lot of times it can fall quite a bit deeper than what you're going to run across it at, say, in your field or woods. So in that aspect, yeah, I would still say you're doing things the right way. And you know, to each their own. Everybody has their own cup of tea. Some people they're not real fond of beach hunting.
Yeah, and I follow a lot of guys, and it's exciting. I mean, to pull a ring out of it, I've never found a gold ring. So the feeling to pull a gold ring out of the ground must be amazing. I just can't get motivated to go to the beach. I don't know why.
Well, maybe you'll find one in another jar or something.
Maybe.
I try beach hunting once a year when we go to Gulf Shores every summer for a vacation, and I take a metal detector with me down there. I've never found a gold ring down there or silver. I've never found any kind, even costume jewelry. But I have found gold rings at schools and parks and things like that, you know, whenever I used to hunt those. But, you know, to each his own.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that...
When I first started, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I talk a lot. You go ahead. Get a word in.
Oh, believe me, people hear me plenty any other day of the week, so that's not a problem. But I had heard Seven saying, you know, somebody call in and see if this works, and then I had to call in and crash it to see if it worked.
And then I think your phone number accidentally got broadcasted too, so you might get some more calls after the show.
That's all right.
I'll go and cut that out. I'll edit all that little glitch out. But, yeah, Josh, I'm glad that you did call where I could see if I could pull that up. I didn't add you the way that I should. I just clicked on it whenever it came in, should have added to the call because I put him on hold. I'm learning.
Well, the good thing about that is it gives you practice.
It does. It does.
Yeah. On the few live streams I've done, on paper, everything was supposed to go perfect. But when it's live and every little mistake is hard to catch on time, I can totally relate.
Yeah.
I think it's going pretty well, though.
It always sounds good on paper.
Yeah, it does. And theoretically, everything ought to work easy, you know, but it doesn't. And Jeff and I talked about doing live YouTube. In fact, got some of the equipment that we needed to do live YouTube. And then I was listening to Josh and some of the other podcasts, and I told him, I said, you know, I can't watch a video going down the road, but I can listen to a podcast. And so we just decided to do this, and I'm kind of glad that we did. I don't think that I want to do live YouTube. I just like this format, you know, and you can get people in the chat live and everything. And who wants to see my ugly mug anyway, you know?
I do love the live chat aspect of all the live, whether it's a live stream or the live podcast. The live chat is great because there's not a lot of opportunities for everyone to be able to communicate in real time. And the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, it's a broken conversation, so it's hard to keep that momentum. But I really do like anything live. It creates excitement.
What have you got? You got anything in store for 2018? Going to try and do anything different than you've been doing?
You talking to me or Josh?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it's going to be too much different. I did say I wanted to go on some more road trips. I wanted to try to hit some different land. There's a few things that I have never dug that I've wanted to. I've never dug a Civil War era bullet. Up here, they're just not as common. And it might not seem like much to some guys, but I just want to find one. So we might take a weekend trip, my digging partner and I, down south and try to hunt there. And I have no problem door knocking. I've met a lot of people that way. So I'll just knock on doors. Like I said, I use the internet, and it's not like I do a ton of research on my spots. I can kind of eyeball where the old houses look, and then I'll bring up the internet, usually a real estate site, see when it was built. I'll eyeball the land to see if looks like there's any fill dirt. Sometimes you don't know, but I got a pretty good idea. And then I just get out and knock on the doors. So I would love to find a Civil War bullet. So I think this year we're going to take some road trips. Like I said, I'm going to go out to that one in Ohio, meet some of the other diggers out there. And I might do a trip down south. And I like hobnobbing with the other people I've met on here. It becomes like a little family.
It does.
And after years of talking to the same person, you'd like to meet them, shake their hand.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that this year.
Yeah.
Well, Seven, it might be something. Maybe you should get him down there in your neck of the woods, and I'm sure you can get him on a Civil War bullet.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to say. You have an open invitation to come down here and hunt with me and Jeff, and I guarantee you that we'll put you on a Civil War bullet. We don't.
I know it's not like, believe me, it's not like I'm asking for a cap bust quarter. I think a Civil War bullet is doable. I just I got to get on the right area where more Civil War activity took place.
Yeah. Yeah,
so do you have like a particular preference, or you're kind of going, I don't care, any Civil War bullet will do, I just want one?
No, I mean, I know a lot of the bullets from watching other guys and other gardeners and the sharps and the ringtails and all them, but I've never dug any. So I would just like to scratch it off the list of, man, I'd love to dig one. I'd love to dig that piece of lead out that has that beautiful patina on there from being in the ground 150 years. And I just want to have that experience of digging one myself. I'm not a picky digger. I'm not a guy that goes out and needs to find, these amazing finds. I'm pretty easygoing. So there we go, Civil War bullet hoarder. I just want to find one. I just want to say that I got one and have that experience. This is my thing. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. And this year, I'm going to make it happen. Like I said, I got the okay from the missus, and that's the biggest hurdle.
Well, if Seven and Jeff get together and get you on a spot, you may even come up with 2 or 3. And wouldn't that be great to see his reaction when he finds his first, Seven? I
remember whenever I found my first one, the first Civil War bullet I found was a Burnside. That's a Confederate bullet. And I was just in awe whenever I found it, because that was something that I always wanted to find. And my chat is locked up. The last thing I have is Tim Henderson saying, is there any comparing a GPX with a Garrett ATX? Let me answer that question real quick. Bird Dog has a Garrett ATX, and Bird Dog and I have the opportunity to hunt together every now and then. And I want to get with him and do a comparison. I'd like to do a video comparison of the GPX and the ATX. I still think it's how much the person that's running the detector knows about it. And Bird Dog is a great hunter. I've hunted with him before. But I'd just like to do a comparison where each of us find a signal and let people hear the difference in how those two machines sound. That's a great question, Tim. But yeah, Jason, if you ever get an opportunity, I want you to come down and we'll put you on a Civil War bullet.
I would love to. I'll have to map out and see how far Kentucky is. It might take me a whole day to get down there. But I'm definitely going to take some trips. I have a couple of digging friends in Tennessee also that invited me down. Like I said, we got such a nice community out here. I know I've invited lots of people up to New Jersey, and even though my sites that I like digging on the most are post-Civil War sites, I do have some Revolutionary farm sites. I don't have very good luck on those Revolutionary War era locations, so I kind of prefer the later 1800s sites. But if you ever want to come up here, I could probably put you on some good Revolutionary era locations, and it's going to come up down to a little bit of luck of if you find it or not. But I'm really hoping this year, and even if I don't get too far, Gettysburg is only about maybe 2 hours from me, and obviously you can't dig on the battlefield there, but you can door knock and roll the dice. A lot of Amish live out there. I don't know how well they perceive me showing up with a metal detector.
I tell you what, we've got some Amish here in Kentucky that have bought some river land, and I did a history book on actually it's a state park now. Well, you've got my book, Old Mulkey, don't you, Jason?
Yes, I do. Absolutely, I read it last year.
Yeah, but anyway, they are really interested in those church groups way back in the late 1700s, 1800s that moved as a family into an area and bought land or received land grants and everything. And they had gotten my book and read it. I didn't know it. And we went down there and knocked on the door and I said, we metal detect and we'd like to hunt. It's all farmland there. I said, we'd like to hunt on your farm. And I told them, I said, gave them my name. And they said, are you the one that wrote the book? And I said, yeah. And they were, when you first went up, they appeared to be apprehensive until they understood that I was the author of that book. And then the older gentleman, which I guess was an elder in that community, he took me around to every house, and he said, this is the guy that wrote the book. And so they said, yeah, you can hunt on my farm. You can hunt in my yard. You can hunt in my kitchen if you want to, So that was kind of interesting. But they're wonderful people, real good people.
Yeah, we've been out, my family and I have been out to Gettysburg a few times, and we'll stay overnight in some of the little bed and breakfasts. And we'll do the horse and buggy rides through the town. They are incredibly friendly people. I just wasn't sure how they'd be if I show up with this crazy technology. And when I have gone out there, I've been with the wife and the kids, so it really wasn't the right time for me to go door knocking. But you never know.
Well, there was a young man. He was in college here, good friend of mine. And he was going to do a documentary on them. And he asked me if I would help him video and then put all that together. And he just told me he wanted to do a documentary. And I said, well, sure, I'll help you. And it was for a class project. And I said, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm going to do it on the Amish community. And I said, I don't think you're going to have any luck. I said, when is it due? And he said, tomorrow. And I said, well, we better go down there and see. And we went down, and they had restrictions. We told them what we were going to do, and they said, you can film any of our men working. You can film our women at a distance in the bakeries and things that they had, but they have to have their back turned to you. And you can film the children at the school out playing in the yard, but you have to be, I think it was probably, they told us how close that we could go, but it would have measured out about, 1,000 feet. And they had some restrictions, but they allowed us to do that, and it made a great video. So they're partially accommodating, I mean, it's not just you would get a go away, leave us alone. But they do have restrictions.
Oh, yeah, they're very... I know there's an Amish market not far from me, and we'll go there to buy our meats and everything. They have the best foods. And in this Amish market, there's a sign when you walk in that says, please no cameras. Now, I guess they don't want to have to explain those restrictions, so it's probably easier to put a sign up, no cameras. And every store in the Amish market there's no cash registers. When you buy something, they get a piece of paper and a pencil, and they write it all down, and they'll write down the tax, and they'll do all the math in their head because they won't use a cash register or even a calculator for, technology. But meanwhile, they do have lights on in the place, and they do drive there. So I guess maybe the Amish that have that are slightly more modernized, but they still have those core traditions that they stick to.
Yeah, they do. But they are approachable, and they're great people. We've hunted down there quite a bit and found a few things, and we always go and show them what we find, and then they show us things that they have found in the field. Just tending the land, and they're very personable people. They're good folks. Tell us before we close how everybody can get in touch with you on YouTube, Facebook, what have you.
Well, before you do that, Seven, I'm going to get on out of here. I just figured I'd drop in and say very interesting stories tonight from Jason, and good guest on your part, Seven. Good job with the show, and still continually keeping Jeff in our thoughts.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Josh, for calling. And
thanks for calling in, Josh.
Not a problem. You guys have a great night.
You too.
Hey, you too. If someone wanted to get a hold of me, they could reach me on YouTube. They could private message me. I do have a Facebook page. It's just The Hoarder. I will admit that I'm not the best Facebook guy. I'm only on, twice a week for maybe 10 minutes. But I do have a Facebook page. I do check it, just not regularly. They can email me, quarterhoarder@yahoo.com. I do check that a lot. I get a lot of things for the stickers. Like I said, I send those stickers out like a candy. But it's fun, and I've sent them out all over the world now. It almost kind of became a joke with my wife because each morning, when I was first starting, there'd be like a stack of like 50 envelopes. I have to keep running to the post office to get stamps. Jeff wants to know if I have a MySpace account. I don't know if I have a Quarter MySpace. I'll have to open one of those up.
Yeah, I'm not getting any chat. Mine locked up.
Yeah, mine's still running. Yeah, you said yours locked up. It's still coming in. I'm getting them. I'm not sure. Maybe you could try to refresh the page. I don't know if that'll interfere with the broadcast though.
Yeah, I'm afraid to do that. Josh,
yeah.
I hear Josh say all the time that his chat locks up. Of course, you're running all of the audio and everything through this same thing, so it makes a difference on this end, I think. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I did the same thing on my stream. That's why I did just like you. I bought a second computer that I just run the chat on because I wanted to be able to see the chat on a nice big screen and still be able to run all the background images and overlays on another computer. So, when I first started thinking I'm going to do this live chat, I thought, this will be simple. I'll just fire up the camera and start talking. But, things snowball and you get into it and you buy a big lighting kit and you buy microphones and you got to buy extra computers, and it became a whole hassle. So I think I'm going to limit my live stream. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much work that goes into that. Of course, I had a lot of audio equipment because I've got a studio in what
that's what you're saying. You had a lot of stuff already. So
yeah.
At least you were maybe 25% halfway there.
Probably more than that because I didn't have to buy a lot. I've got a ton of microphones and mixing board and all that, so I didn't really have to buy anything to get set up on this, and so that helped me out quite a bit. I tell you what, Jason, you've been a great guest, great story with the witch jar thing, and like I said, you've got an open invitation to come to Kentucky and Tennessee anytime that you get the opportunity. We thank everybody that come into the chat tonight, and thank Josh for calling in. And it's still going to take me a little while to figure out Skype. I seem to have a problem with that. I don't know. Of course, I'm just like Jeff says, I'm just a redneck with a metal detector. But anyway, you've been a great guest, and I think we've had a good show. And I think that this share this show with people. Hit the like button and share it on your pages, because I think this is something interesting that a lot of people will like to hear. Jason's story about the witch's jar. And we'll have you back on again and talk just more metal detecting and, you know, a little less about the voodoo and everything of it. But if you don't mind, if you'll stay on the line, and I'm going to mute your input right now and go ahead and close the show out, and I'll catch you in just a moment, okay?
Absolutely. Lloyd, I appreciate you having me on, and goodbye, everybody. Thanks for jumping in on the chat.
And we do appreciate everybody coming on tonight on Relics Radio. Once again, we want to send out our condolences, our prayers, and our thoughts to Tennessee Jeff and his wife Jennifer on the loss of Jennifer's mom. And it's understandable that Jeff couldn't come on tonight, but he will listen to the archive of this. And we just wish the best for that family. And I personally appreciate all of the comments that you guys have made in the chat tonight, offering your prayers and thoughts to Jeff and on Facebook and everything. But we're going to go ahead and close the show out tonight, and we will see you next Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us each Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 7 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Take a moment and hit the like button, and be sure that you follow us on Spreaker so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to diggingwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And we hope that you'll join us next Thursday night. And until then, get out there and dig some history.